Hey there, it's Olivia-Savannah here from Olivia's Catastrophe, and today I'm here to give you some Earth book recommendations. I have two previous videos where I recommend water-themed books and fire-themed books, and I'm here to give you the third one in this little video series where I recommend books based on the elements. I've got some Earth books here. Let's get right down to it because these books are going to grow on you. The very first book I want to recommend here is Circe by Madeline Miller, and this one is a Greek mythology retelling which focuses on Circe, who is definitely portrayed as a villain in most of the Greek mythology stories, and this is her story where it focuses all on her and her experiences. And Circe definitely has a lot of encounters with different Greek gods, with different heroes and demigods, and as well as that she spends a lot of this time on a certain island working and learning magic. And I really like those scenes. I don't really like training montages where someone learns that they have a skill or a talent and it takes the time to develop that talent and develop learning about their craft. I find that sometimes a bit slow-paced and a bit boring, and I've seen it done in a lot of fantasy books, but I really liked it in Circe. I really liked how you could see her character development, but also seeing her learn which plants could be grown where and seeing her learn what concoctions make which reaction. I was absolutely fascinated throughout reading this book, so I think it definitely fits into maybe the water theme because a lot of it has to do with water at certain points, but also the earth theme for how much she draws magic from the earth, from how much power she gets from the earth. And I feel like this book also focuses on motherhood, which is a theme that is often connected to nature, womanliness, nature, natural cycle. So it was very interesting to read this book and I really recommend it. The next one I want to recommend is a book that I just couldn't find on my shelf. I know it's there, but I couldn't find it, so we're getting an ebook cover up, and that is The Word for World is Forest by Ursula K. Le Guin, and this is an eco-centric science fiction book that is focused on this little island, this little planet I guess, where the word for world in their language is also forest, and it's about colonization because there are some humans who have appeared who are looking to gain some natural resources from this planet. So it's kind of a story about colonization and how it goes, typically how it goes, but it's using a science fiction kind of storyline as a bit of a way of discussing this and looking into some of the themes, as well as that there is a native species on this island and the interactions that the humans who have arrived have with that native species were very interesting, again leaning into colonization. And I really love this book. I thought it was absolutely brilliant. It was geniusly well done. The plot was really intriguing, and it's not focusing on the characters whatsoever. It's definitely a plot-driven book, but what you do get of the characters makes sense in seeing their choices and what it amounts to, and I thought really good book. It was my first Ursula K. Le Guin, and it definitely hasn't been my last and will not be my last. The next book I have to recommend is The Fifth Season by N.K. Jemisin, which was a recent read for me and I absolutely loved it. Of course I had to recommend this one for the Earth prompt because in this one there are these characters who can control the Earth. They can create earth shakes, they can do other things as long as they cess their way into the Earth, and this gift is called Originy, and with Originy you would believe that they will be the ones in power in this world, but they are not. They're controlled by a certain group of people and a certain system, and this is a bit of an apocalyptic story as well. And we get multiple points of views and the plot comes together in a quite an astounding way. I was really not sure where it was going, but when it got there I was quite happy with the direction that it took. I was so intrigued by all of these characters. They're all so very interesting and you get so invested in their lives and the choices that they make and the dangers that they face, and I thought it was brilliantly, spectacularly written. You've got to keep focusing throughout this book because there is a lot that you need to untangle, that you need to pay attention to and understand, but the author definitely divulges her information in a way that will support you in getting and understanding everything in the time that you need to. It's incredibly well paced, it's just incredible, full stop, so you should read this one. The next recommendation I have for you is The Secret Life of Bees by Sue Monk Kidd, and this one is a historical book which focuses on a young girl. She's been told all of her life that when she was just 4 years old she accidentally killed her mother. and there is someone in her house who is the help, but they decide to run away together, and when they do, they discover this family of sisters who look after these bees, and the story goes from there. And I loved this book. I thought it was very brilliantly written. It's a very interesting study of character and history and emotions, and it really focuses on those things. It's definitely a very character driven story, but all of these characters, especially this young girl who we're following, they develop so much, they flourish, they change, and there are lots of descriptions of nature around them as they do so. They're travelling and they're running away, so they're definitely working their way through nature, and the descriptions of nature in this book are absolutely gorgeous. But of course, when they meet these women who work with bees, there's also a description of the bees, the beehive, and how they, you know, how bees make their honey, how bees live together, and that's definitely woven into the novel, this light, this sweetness, but also this sense of unity and organisation. And I think the bees, alongside the nature and the character development, all tied together, was just exquisitely done and beautiful to read about, so I really recommend this book as well. The next one I just had to recommend, and that is The Raven Cycle by Maggie Stiefvater. I'm holding up The Raven King, which is the fourth and final book in the quartet, but you should start with The Raven Boys, which is the first book. I just found this one on my shelf first, so I thought, why not include it in the video? And The Raven Boys, well, the synopsis will tell you that it's about Blue, and if she kisses her true love, she will die. But what I'm going to tell you it's about is about these boys who are on this adventure to find a dead Welsh king, and if you wake up this king, he will grant you one wish. And I think the synopsis of the book, combined with the synopsis I give you there, paints the best picture that you can get of this series before going into it. It's a very character-driven found family kind of series, so you've got lots of characters who develop over time, but it's also got a bit of a magical plot, twining everything together very, very well. And I had to recommend this for the Earth recommendations prompt because A, I could not recommend the sequel series, which I think leans into the Earth aesthetic all the more, but you have to start with this series. And in this one there is a forest which is magical and mysterious and powerful, and it runs on ley line energy, which is something that is underground and to do with the earth. So that magical forest is definitely one of main settings of this novel, of this whole series I would say. It is a very important role. It's almost sentient in how magical and alive it is. The descriptions of it are beautiful, and I just love all the scenes with that forest in there, so I thought it definitely fit the Earth prompt as well, and I had to recommend it in this video. Another favourite series that I'm recommending here, maybe this is a sign because actually Earth is one of my favourite elements, so having so many of my favourite books be on this list is great, and that is Artemis Fowl by Eoin Colfer. So this one is actually a heist fantasy middle grade story and series where we start off with Artemis Fowl, who believes that fairies exist. So he decides that he's going to capture a fairy, and if you capture a fairy and they can't rescue that fairy, the fairies have to give you some ransom gold. So he's technically after this ransom gold and not the fairy. However, fairies have magic and more tricks up their sleeve than maybe Artemis Fowl has bargained for in his plans, and that's what this first book is on about, but it goes into so very much more as the series goes along, and it's absolutely fantastic and it's a brilliant series. You should definitely read it. But one of the main things about this series is that it quietly sends in an environmentally friendly message, because all of these fairies live underground. That's how the fairies hide away from the humans. So of course for the fairies, nature and looking after nature is very, very important. In fact, some of their magic that they have is tied into nature. So you definitely get a lot of moments where the fairies are caring about the environment, they're talking about ways of saving the environment, and I like that message being woven into a middle grade novel because I do think it's important for children as well to learn about how good and how important it is to look after the environment. And I think it's a good way of including it in this like fantasy series which has an entirely separate plot but also is spreading that very good message. For something a little bit different, I'm going to be recommending a poetry collection, and that is The Stone Age by Jen Hadfield. I read this one for review and I really, really enjoyed it. In this poetry collection, just to talk about some of its themes generally, it looks at neurodiversity. It's very much set around this house that Jen Hadfield lives in, her like Shetland house, which is out in the nature, and I think the descriptions of how nature is interwoven into this poetry are very stark, very beautiful imagery. It's very sensual and you can definitely get that effect. And because nature is one of the key images and some of the key imagery in this poetry collection, I just had to recommend it in this video. And yeah, I think it's very hard to talk about poetry, especially when it's so open like this. When you read these poems, I think multiple people will get different interpretations or read it in a different way, but that setting and that theme of nature as an undercurrent in all of the poems is what really connects them. And then last but not least, I have a book that I've talked about a lot in this channel, and I have mentioned this one in my water video, but it just fits so well for the earth theme as well that I had to recommend it again, and that is Their Eyes Are Watching God by Zora Neale Hurston. I'm sorry that I keep talking about it, but it is actually a fantastic book, and we're following this young woman who is looking for love. It's historical fiction and she's black and she's looking for love, and she finds it in a lot of the wrong places and maybe some of the right ones too. So it's very character development focused, and it's really talking about her journey, but there are lots of descriptions of nature and of nature flourishing and growing as she flourishes and grows. Can you see that that runs through a lot of these female focused narratives that I've been recommending, that as they grow and change, the nature around them grows and changes as well, and that happens in this book too, and I love it. I love when that happens. I love seeing character development connected and woven into nature, so I just had to add it to the pile because it's so very good. Modern classic, worth your time. Language can be a bit difficult, but I definitely recommend the audiobook because that helped me through it, and it was a fantastic read, so I had to recommend it. Please let me know in the comment section down below what books that are earth elemental related do you have to recommend to me for me to read, because I obviously really enjoy earth. It's the best element of the elemental groups, and I will be happy to read more books that feature nature in such a way. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, hit the subscribe button if you want to see more, and don't forget to hit that notification bell to be updated every time I have a new video. And you know what they say, onwards and upwards. Excelsior. And also, what's the other element? Oh,